Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 study. We're on class number 2. We're going to finish the first chapter and start the second chapter, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. And first, as always, we'll have some kirtan.
Hi everybody. Hi. Can you hear me and the music? Okay. Let's start with 2 deep clearing breaths. Inhale, sip the breath in. Exhale, clear it out. Again, inhale, sip the breath in, sit tall. Open your mouth, exhale, let it go. Let's start with our invocation, these opening prayers to honor our teachers, the long lineage of acharyas, spiritual masters who have gifted us the torchlight of knowledge, removing the darkness of ignorance. Deep breath in. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Nitai ki, Shri Radha Govinda ki, Arnam Sankirtan ki, Raman Bhakti Asanga and Beyond ki, Shastra Study Group, Holiday Week ki, Hari Hari Bol.
Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shraka Chakshuru Niritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. From my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master who has opened my darkened eyes with the torch lamp of transcendental knowledge. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Another great turnout. Love that. Great to be with all of you. We had some really first class reflections in the chat. And don't feel bad if you're behind and you couldn't put your reflections in. That's okay. There's no expiry date on them. Like if you're 3 weeks late, it's like whatever. They're always relevant. So just if you're tuning in on YouTube, like in 2026, listening to this, that's okay. Just give your reflections then. It'll still be fully nectarian. I really appreciated several reflections, and I want to just kind of highlight one because it just really stuck with me. It was Lauren's reflection actually, because she was saying how I'm just paraphrasing here, but if you want to jump in afterwards, Lauren, feel free. But you were saying about how your takeaway was that knowledge without devotion is very dry. It's not. There's no real joy in it. There's no real purpose in it, and you're reflecting how you'd realize that. Maybe not in so many words, but you'd realize that in your own life from pursuit of spiritual practice. But you're starting to really appreciate through tasting, like the devotion of connecting personally with Source, and how that's just experientially something so different than acquiring. Even acquiring very high transcendental knowledge is not doesn't cut it compared to devotion. So. I love that because it's so true. It's very much a message of the Bhagavatam, and it's also great kind of home plate, place to start from if if you ever need a reset. Because when things get too heady, and I promised last week, like it was really heady, and it's going to come back to kind of like practicality very quickly, like in a matter of minutes, hopefully. But if it ever starts to get like very heady, just I encourage all of you to sink into that realization of like, I'm here to develop appreciation and devotion, and that's what it's all about. And that's what I'm made for anyway. I'm not like a little knowledge sponge, here to just like, because like the unconscious, at least for me, the unconscious end goal of like being a knowledge sponge is like to control and enjoy, right? Because like I get it, like I get it now, like I'm there now, and that's not really what love is ever. So just appreciating that. That's a very it's a very like beginner's realization, but it's also a very advanced realization. It's always relevant. So thanks for that, Lauren. And if anyone wants, Lauren or anyone else wants to jump in and reflect on that or any other personal reflection or anything else you heard, this is the time before we jump into the balance of chapter 1.
I really appreciated that reflection too. It's something that adjacent to something I had wrote down after the short Lord Chaitanya bio about this process being heartfelt and simple. And both of those things, especially what Lauren shared and what you shared, it's been really resonating personally as I've been able to spend more time at the ISKCON temple here in Denver.
Yeah.
And it's been an incredible experience. And then there's also so much to it. Like I'm learning so much more. There's the ritual, there's chanting, there's prayer, there's artis, there's like, it's an ocean of mercy and knowledge and information and development. And, it's it's a whole different experience too. And it's been a really good practice for me to be embracing that and experiencing it, and then also remembering what feels really true to like my heart and like what am I meant to really take away, what feels like it's helping me connect to Krishna more and not lose that essence. So it's been um, both of the comments were just like really nice validation, permission to like not get lost in the sauce and
Yeah,
remember
definitely.
what all of this is here for, which is love of God in the heart. And it's not so much about, um, not so much about the, all the ways in which it can just be incredibly beautiful and advanced.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, in established temples like that, that's the temple where I was a monk for like 8 years, and they have a class on this Srimad Bhagavatam daily, every morning for an hour, and they work through it systematically, verse by verse, one verse every day. So I think they did the math once. If you do it that way, um, it works out to like in 50 years you'll read the whole Bhagavatam. So that's how like deep dive it is. When I was there, we started on Canto 1, chapter like 18, and when I left, we were halfway through Canto 3. It was a nice chunk, but it's as deep as you want to go. It's an ocean with no shore, and it's like, yeah, just a great reminder to remember what's our purpose. What are we here for? And all the secondary stuff, the beauty, the ritual, the Sanskrit, the mantras, is all in service to devotion. Yeah, thank you. Any more reflections?
I was just going to add, thank you so much. Everybody's share was so great, and I wasn't going to come tonight because I've got the ick that's going around,
Yeah, it's going around.
and
Bucky's got it too.
yeah, and so yeah, but I got 30 people coming for dinner tomorrow night, so I'm like, uh-oh. But anyway,
Luck.
but you know what, what I wanted to say was that the end of the fourth verse, checks 4, talks about if you water the tree of devotion, all the branches and all the leaves benefit from that. But if it becomes detached, then there's no benefit. You can water the roots, and if the branch is just sitting over there, or the leaves are blowing away, it's getting no benefit from the water. So it's one of the things that I was fear of missing out. I mean, I really wanted to go to sleep, but I was like, I don't want to miss this, because the more I don't show up, the more I go into my rational mind about things, and it really has to come from the heart. All of this has to be this driving from the heart, and that, yeah, the more you hear it, the more things connect, and the names don't get confused and blah blah blah. But it really is just such a beautiful process, and so happy that everybody's here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you're here. Shakti's here, although you're both fighting off the ick, as you put it. Yeah, we're really grateful that you also were able to just be here. Thank you. Any more reflections or comments or questions or anything that stood out
I'll do
from
a
your?
I'll do a
Yeah,
quick one. Thank you so much for the recordings. I haven't actually had to do really a recording before, and I had a prior thing last week. So I just so appreciate you and Kishori, offering that as part of your service. So thank you. And I have been feeling, I think I've shared this with a couple of you, like I've been feeling very disconnected since I left Vermont. Like this is like my first time of like 6 months and then coming back here for 6 months, and it's like kind of weird, and I felt disconnected. And I was reading something the other day, and it talked about hearing and the power of hearing. And as Tanya mentioned in the last class, I think Tanya, at the end of the class, you mentioned something about like not doing this alone, like doing this, with instruction. And so I just am so grateful, like, because I think when we read the Krishna book, my last comment was, I got to know Krishna so much better, and it made me love him more. And that's how we build relationship. And so like, it's also being in Sangha, and it's also hearing. And so for me, listening to the first part of Canto, like the first couple texts, and just re-engaging back in the Sangha and re-engaging in the hearing and the instruction and listening with devotees, I think that, I've been saying a lot of prayers, like, how do I level back up in Philly? Like, how do I get my practice back to where it was in Vermont? And like, what do I need to do? And crazy after that prayer, Shakti reached out to me with a lifeline. She didn't even know it, but like I was like saying so many prayers about like other things, and like Shakti reached out. And so even just like that as a kind of an add-on or a dovetail to these sanghas is just such a beautiful way to like learn about Krishna and love Krishna more. like be together and marinate in this love of Krishna, because, you know, when I get off this call, like I got to be in the real world and I've got to go to work and I got to do the things, and just, you know, giving this to us each week in this format and the patient way you do it, Shami Pras, is just so nourishing. So thank you. And I'm really excited about digging in more.
You're welcome, and thanks for being here and for your encouragement. I mean, I always say like I get more out of it than anybody. I really love Tuesdays because of all of you. Jai, any other reflections before we jump in? Okay. I did my invocation mantra, so we'll do the invocation for the Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanang namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam deving saraswating vyasam tato jayamudiraye nashtaprayeshu padreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtaki. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we read verses 1, 2, and 3. Now starting up in verse 4 here. Once in a holy place, in the forest of Naimisharanya, great sages, headed by the sage Shaunaka, assembled to perform a great 1,000-year sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord and his devotees. Verse 5. One day, after finishing their morning duties by burning a sacrificial fire and offering a seat of esteem to Srila Sutta Goswami, the great sages made inquiries with great respect about the following matters. So here we see like a little bit about the culture of spiritual inquiry. Prabhupada talks about it a little bit in the purport here and in other purports. He says, those who listen to the Bhagavatam may put questions to the speaker in order to elicit the clear meaning, but this should not be done in a challenging spirit. One must submit questions with a great regard for the speaker and the subject matter. This is also the way recommended in Bhagavad Gita. One must learn the transcendental subject by submissive oral reception, oral A-U-R-A-L, sonic, like through the ear, from the right sources. Therefore, the sages address the speaker Sutta Goswami with great respect. Verse 6, respected Sutta Goswami, you are completely free from all vice.
You didn't do 5?
That was 5, I think.
Yeah, Baba.
Yeah, that was 5.
Okay.
And now we're on to 6.
Okay.
Hi, Baba.
Oh,
Yeah, I have over 100 fever.
he's unmuted. Here we go.
Verse 6. The sages said, respected Sutta Goswami, you are completely free from all vice. You are well versed in all the scriptures famous for religious life, and in the Puranas and the histories as well, for you have gone through them under proper guidance and have also explained them. Being the eldest learned Vedantist, O Sutta Goswami, you are acquainted with the knowledge of Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Godhead. And you also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge. From the purport, Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentation on the Brahma Sutra, or Vedanta Sutras. It is called natural because Vyasadeva is author of both the Vedanta Sutras and the Srimad Bhagavatam, what we're reading now, or the essence of all Vedic literatures. Besides Vyasadeva, there are other sages who are the authors of 6 different philosophical systems, namely Gautama, Kanada, Kapila, Patanjali, Jaimini, and Ashtavakra. Theism is explained completely in the Vedanta Sutra, whereas in other systems of philosophical speculations, practically no mention is given to the ultimate cause of all causes. One can sit on the Vyasasana, the seat of teaching, or Vyasadev's seat, only after being conversant in all systems of philosophy, so that one can present fully the theistic views of the Bhagavatam in defiance of all of the systems. Actually, Vedanta, Vyasadev's contribution of Vedanta, which literally means the conclusion of all knowledge. Veda means knowledge. Anta means the, like in English, end. Anta, end, like the end of all knowledge. Vedanta, it incorporates aspects of all the other 6 primary philosophical systems. I mentioned this in other classes with the system of like the logic by which we like look at text, how we understand a text. That's from the Nyaya system, logic, the hermeneutics, which means how you look at a text and know what it's supposed to convey. What's that fancy word? The epistemology. How do you know what you know? What is a real source of knowledge? How do you obtain real knowledge? That comes from one of the schools. All these fancy things. But Vedanta is the complete philosophy, and especially the devotional Vedanta is what's presented in Bhagavatam. Verse 8. This is a nice verse, very kind of famous. Vetattvang samyatat sarvang tattvatastad anugrahat bruhyosnigtasya shirshasya guravo gohyam apyuta. And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them.
Shami Press, can I ask you a quick question? Is this taking place like on Earth? Is this a spiritual planet? Like where? It's in the Earth. Okay.
It's in a place called Naimisharanya, which is it still exists. It's in India. This took place several thousand years ago, about 5,000 years ago. We're gonna have some time jumps at different places, but the entire first canto is basically chronological from about 5,000 years ago. And yes, it's on Earth. Not a foolish question, given, Eileen has read other parts of the Bhagavatam, and there are like other planets, material planets and spiritual planets. Turns out this is not the only planet that supports life. There are, in fact, not just there's different planes of existence. That's a whole thing. We'll get to that next canto. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes this. He says, the secret of success in spiritual life. Anyone want to know the secret of success in spiritual life? Because if you do, here it is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting their sincere blessings. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has sung in his famous 8 stanzas on the spiritual master as follows. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Only by his satisfaction can one please the personality of Godhead. And when he is dissatisfied, there's only havoc on the path of spiritual realization. So the idea is that it's a personal science, and as such, we learn from persons. And there's so much that cannot be learned just from theoretical knowledge and independent study. And so there's a way in which when we demonstrate like respect, and you can see in the translation here, the words that are used, purity, simplicity, submissiveness, gentleness. These are qualities that Sutta Goswami has demonstrated, and the people who are asking him questions are saying, well, these are your qualifications. This is how we know you obtain the mercy of your spiritual teachers, right? It's like if you show up to class, right? If you're there and you're kind of like, you got this arrogant attitude, like I know everything, you may learn so much because of your great intelligence, but how many blessings are you going to get from your teacher? Like how much care and attention are you going to get from them? If you demonstrate like, oh, I mean, I know more than you, Whereas if you show up, you're in the front row, you're trying to learn, you're sincere, it actually doesn't really matter how much you pick up because of your own greatness. If the teacher sees like, oh, this person is like really here for it, they'll open their heart to you and give you everything you need. And because this is a spiritual science, that's extremely valuable. It's so much more valuable than scholarship, or material intelligence. That's not how we make advancement. It doesn't hurt, but it doesn't actually necessarily make the great difference that we may think it does. It's actually very much a personal science rather than an impersonal one. The sages of Naimisharanya were confident that Srila Sutta Goswami was bona fide. Therefore, they were anxious to hear from him. Please, therefore, verse 9, being blessed with many years, explain to us in an easily understandable way what you have ascertained to be the absolute and ultimate good for the people in general. This is the first verse. This is the first question asked by the sages of several. Let me see if I can find my notes here. I've got some notes on the questions that are asked.
I think there were 10. I could be wrong.
I'll let you know in a second. This is the first, if I'm not mistaken. I've got a nice little chart here. I linked to this as a little study guide. Some devotee friends of mine put it together, and it's fantastic. It's not necessary. Don't feel like you have to get this. Right. So this is the first question. What is the highest good? That's basically what it boils down to. What is the highest good for people in general? In this age, especially. And then the next verse describes the qualifications or disqualifications of the people of this age. Because this verse was spoken on the cusp of this age coming in. They understood that around the corner, chronologically, what we're due for is what's called in Sanskrit as the Kali, the age of Kali, the Kali Yuga. Yuga means age. And what is the Kali Yuga symptomized by? Here it is, verse 10. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men, this is always gender neutral, people almost always have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Oof. Right? And so this was their point of view is like, these sages are thinking, it's going to get harder for people. They don't have much time. They don't have much attention. They don't have much sincerity. They don't have much peace of mind. And they're always disturbed. So what can we do for them? What is the greatest good, given that situation? And from the purport, we have here an insight into the mentality of devotees, actually. Persons who have no chip in the game, you could say. Nothing to gain and nothing to lose from the material, game. What do they actually care about? What are they here for? The purport. The devotees of the Lord are always anxious for the spiritual improvement of the general public. When the sages of Naimisharanya analyzed the state of affairs of the people in this age of Kali, they foresaw that men would live short lives. In this age, the duration of life is shortened not so much because of insufficient food, but because of irregular habits. By keeping regular habits and eating simple food, any person can maintain their health. Overeating, over sense gratification, over dependence on another's mercy, and artificial standards of living sap the very vitality of human energy. Therefore, the duration of life is shortened. I'm also going to paraphrase something Prabhupada says in another purport, which is that when you talk about insufficient food, that's also not a question of lack of production. It's a question of lack of management. We have so much on the planet. Everybody can eat sumptuously 4 times a day if they want to. It's not a problem, but we don't do it. We don't arrange for it. We actually waste a horrifying amount of food. And there's a lot of economic and material reasons for that. But what it comes down to is bad management. So even at that level, we can see the unfortunate quality. Continuing the purport, the people of this age are also very lazy, not only materially, but in the matter of self-realization. The human life is especially meant for self-realization. That is to say, people should come to know what they are, what the world is, and what the supreme truth is. But due to a bad system of education, people have no desire for self-realization. Even if they come to know about it, they unfortunately become victims of misguided teachers. In this age, people are victims not only of different political creeds and parties, but also many different types of sense gratificatory diversions, such as cinemas, sports, gambling, clubs, mundane libraries, bad association, smoking, drinking, cheating, pilfering, bickerings, and so on. Interesting way of characterizing these things. Prabhupada's not talking about it in the way that we may be used to, especially from a Judeo-Christian point of view, of oh, that's bad and sinful. What is the real definition of sin here? What does he say? He says, these are diversions. They're diversions. Their minds are always disturbed and full of anxieties due to so many different engagements. So they're distractions, right? I've just been noting, I don't know if you all have been noticing this, how normal the idea of gambling is now in the sports world. If you watch any highlights from sports games, everything is just sponsored by this gambling or that gambling. You're encouraged to spend so much money gambling on sports. I remember 3 or 4 years ago, that wasn't normal. Now it's totally normal, totally mainstream. And it's whoa, what does that mean for the integrity of the game? What does that mean for people who are just going to become addicted? Because it's an incredibly addictive thing. Anyway, just one out of so many things Prabhupada's mentioning here. Lots of distractions, Lots of diversions. And what does that mean? Prabhupada continues, in this age, many unscrupulous people manufacture their own religious faiths which are not based on any revealed scriptures. And very often people who are addicted to sense gratification are attracted by such institutions. Consequently, in the name of religion, so many sinful acts are being carried on. Excuse me. So that people in general have neither peace of mind nor health of body. Right? Material sense gratification is now the standard of civilization. For the maintenance of such material civilizations, man has formed complex nations and communities, and there is a constant strain of hot and cold wars between these different groups. This was written in the early 60s, in the heyday of the Cold War, where capitalist and communist regimes were very, very like, unhappy and edging around each other. So those Cold War, but Prabhupada is alluding to that. Hot wars and cold wars. The sages are anxious to disentangle all fallen souls, and here they are seeking the remedy from Srila Sutta Goswami. So here's the mentality. It's like one of actually, what is, think of that. They can ask him anything. The first question is, okay, what's the best thing for everybody, right? What a deep quality of heart we're seeing from these great thinkers. You know, what deep compassion they have, right? They want to know what the best is, and they want to become qualified to actually help people to get it, right? So it's right away. We can see this is not like a sectarian consideration. It's not like, okay, this is a book designed for true believers of this faith and make you believe and make you follow how to follow ritual properly or no, it's actually like, what is the best good for everybody? Text 11. There are many varieties of scriptures, and in all of them there are many prescribed duties, which can be learned only after many years of study in their various divisions. Therefore, O sage, please select the essence of all these scriptures and explain it for the good of all living beings, that by such instruction their hearts may be fully satisfied. This is the second one. Second question. What is the essence of all scripture? Another great question. First question, what is the highest good? Second question, what is the essence?
Did they?
No answers yet.
Okay.
The answers start to come more or less in the next chapter, which will begin hopefully today,
Did you
if
say
my timing is right.
I'm sorry, essence of all scriptures?
Yes. The second question is, what is the essence of all scriptures? Because there's so many scriptures, and it can be bewildering. And they're alluding to this themselves, Sutta Goswami. The sages are saying to Sutta Goswami, look, you've become an expert in all these books. You know the Puranas, you know the Itihasas, you know the Mahabharata, you know all about the different worship of different demigods, you know about Krishna, this, that, the other. What is the essence of all scripture? Right? This is part of the reason why learning from a person is so much more valuable than not. Like, if you're like, oh, I'll just figure it out myself. Like, okay, here's a huge library. Good luck reconciling all that knowledge. You know, you have to reinvent the wheel. So that's verse 11. Verse 12. All blessings upon you, O Sutta Goswami. You know for what purpose the personality of Godhead appeared in the womb of Devaki as the son of Vasudeva. This is a reference to Krishna. In the purport, Prabhupada says, Bhadram te, that when the sages say Bhadram te, which means all blessings unto you, when they're saying to their teacher, bless you, what it means is it indicates the sage's anxiety to know the absolute truth from the speaker. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared to Devaki, the wife of Vasudeva. Right? So these are his parents, Vasudeva and Devaki. When he chose to take birth, so to speak, when he chose to appear, he had a birth mother and birth father. And they're saying here, you know why he chose to do that. In other words, this is question number 3. What is the purpose for the Lord's appearance? Right? Question 1, what is the highest good? 2, what is the essence of all scriptures? 3, what is the purpose of the Supreme Truth's appearance? Got that? Mm-hmm. Verse 13. And by the way, if anyone ever has any questions or comments, just raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask. I may not see the hand raising, so better to unmute. Verse 13. O Sutta Goswami, we are eager to learn about the personality of Godhead and his incarnations. Please explain to us those teachings imparted by previous masters, acharyas. That's the word for a master. Acharya actually means one who teaches by their own conduct. In Sanskrit, there's two words, achar and prachar. Prachar kind of sounds like preaching, which is kind of what it is. Prachar is what you tell people to do. Achar is what you do yourself. Saint Francis of Assisi, he put it this way: one should preach always, and sometimes one should even use words. Because the idea is that you say so much by who you are. It doesn't actually like require talking as much, because of your own life is testament to what you value and what your priorities are. So an acharya is somebody who walks the talk. They actually live up to what they're talking. They strictly follow. So they're saying here, please explain to us those teachings imparted by previous acharyas. Because one is uplifted both by speaking them and by hearing them. They're saying it'll be good for you to talk about it, and it'll be good for us to hear about it. Please tell us the previous teachings.
Fourth question.
Not really. Anything in the purport I want to talk about? No. 14. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be immediately freed by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified. The purport. It is stated herein that the name of Krishna is feared even by fear personified. This indicates that the name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna. Therefore, the name of Krishna is as powerful as Lord Krishna himself. There is no difference at all. Anyone, therefore, can take advantage of the holy names of Lord Sri Krishna, even in the midst of the greatest dangers. The transcendental name of Krishna, even though uttered unconsciously or by force of circumstances, can help one obtain freedom from the hurdle of birth and death. Verse 15. O Sutta, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who can come in touch with them, whereas the waters of the Ganges can sanctify only after prolonged use. Purport. Pure devotees of the Lord are more powerful than the waters of the sacred river Ganges. One can derive spiritual benefit out of prolonged use of the Ganges waters, but one can be sanctified at once by the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord. To take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord means to take shelter of the pure devotees. Anyone, therefore, who takes shelter of the lotus feet, so to speak, of a pure devotee by accepting the pure devotee as their spiritual master, can at once be purified. Such devotees of the Lord are honored equally with the Lord because they are engaged in the most confidential service of the Lord, for they deliver out of the material world the fallen souls whom the Lord wants to return home back to Godhead. The sincere disciple of the pure devotee considers the spiritual master equal to the Lord, but always considers himself to be a humble servant of the Lord. That is the pure devotional path. So the inquirers are saying, basically here, because of your proximity, because you're so dear, and you're so absorbed, you're so dear to the Supreme Source, and you're so absorbed in devotion, prashamayana, the Sanskrit word, you're so absorbed in devotion. Because of this, just by being close to you, we understand that we can get whatever benefit we need. So you please give it to us. You have everything that we require to answer these questions and to help us. Verse 16, this is kind of a rhetorical question. Who is there desiring deliverance from the vices of the age of quarrel who is not willing to hear the virtuous glories of the Lord? Purport. The age of Kali, this age of quarrel, is the most condemned age due to its quarrelsome features. This age is so saturated with vicious habits that there is a great fight at the slightest misunderstanding. Those who are engaged in the pure devotional service of the Lord, who are without any desire for self-aggrandizement, and it means they're not trying to gain anything for themselves, and who are freed from the effects of fruitive actions. Fruitive actions means The tendency to activity which is aimed at getting something back for oneself, it's a kind of terminology that's not used so much anymore. Prabhupada's kind of used, either he coined it himself or it's a little bit more old-fashioned, but fruitive means like that which creates a fruit for yourself to enjoy. So like I go to work, I make money, and if I view that as like I'm going to work to get, that's fruitive. If I'm viewing it as like I'm going to work to give, I'm giving myself the opportunity to create, keep my body and soul together, take care of my dependents as a service to the Supreme, because they're part and parcel of the Supreme. He's not going to be happy if I let my kids and spouse starve. Keep my house in order as a temple. Contribute to society, whatever I'm doing. Like this is a completely different mentality. So it's not fruitive anymore. Fruitive means like for yourself. So those who are engaged in the pure devotional service don't have a desire for self-aggrandizement. They're freed from the effects of this kind of selfish action and dry philosophical speculation, which means knowledge for the sake of knowledge, even spiritual knowledge for the sake of knowledge. They're free from that. Are capable of getting out of the estrangements of this age. The leaders of the people are very much anxious to live in peace and friendship, but they have no information of the simple method of hearing the glories of the Lord. On the contrary, such leaders are opposed to the propagation of the glories of the Lord. In other words, the foolish leaders want to completely deny the existence of the Lord. In the name of secular state, such leaders are enacting various plans year after year. But by the insurmountable intricacies of the material nature of the Lord, all these plans for progress are being constantly frustrated. They have no eyes to see that their attempts at peace and friendship are failing. But here is the hint to get over the hurdle. If we want actual peace, we must open the road of understanding to understanding of the Supreme Lord Krishna and glorify him for his virtuous activities, as they are depicted in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Verse 17. Here's the next question. His, the Lord's, the sources, transcendental acts are magnificent and gracious, and great learned sages like Narada sing of them. Please therefore speak to us who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations. So the essence of this question is, what are his avatars? Who are they? What did he do? What is he doing? What are his incarnations and activities? This is question 4. Verse 18. O wise Sutta, please narrate to us the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Godhead's multi-incarnations. Such auspicious adventures and pastimes of the Lord, the Supreme Controller, are performed by his internal powers. Again, asking about his incarnations and activities. Verse 19. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him relish of hearing his pastimes at every moment. Here's a reference to devotion, this quality that I was mentioning earlier, this quality that's there in the experience of relating through devotion to the Supreme Person. Those who develop the taste for that relish hearing about him at every moment. From the purport, there is a great difference between mundane stories, fiction, or history, and the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The histories of the whole universe contain references to the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Puranas are histories of bygone eras, bygone ages, recorded in connection with the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord, and therefore remain fresh even after repeated readings. For example, anyone may read Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam repeatedly throughout their life and yet find in them new light of information. Mundane news is static, whereas transcendental news is dynamic, inasmuch as the spirit is dynamic and matter is static. Those who have developed a taste for understanding the transcendental subject matter are never tired of hearing such narrations. One is quickly satiated by mundane activities, but no one is satiated by transcendental or devotional activities. Right? Verse 20. Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balarama, his brother, for those who haven't heard of him yet, Balaram, his brother, also an incarnation, played like a human being, and so masked, he performed many superhuman acts. So they're talking about the principle of avatara, descending. Avatar means in Sanskrit to descend, to cross over in a downward direction, to come from top down, to cross over. What is an avatar? What do they do? Who are they? We know they're saying, like, we know about Krishna and Balaram, and we want to hear about them and their incarnations, their avatar, their expansions. '21. Knowing well that the age of Kali has already begun, we are assembled here in this holy place to hear at great length the transcendental message of Godhead, and in this way perform sacrifice. They knew that they're on the cusp of the new age, and they wanted to ask these important questions and get answers. We think that we've met your goodness by the will of providence, just so we may accept you as captain of the ship for those who desire to cross the difficult ocean of Kali, which deteriorates all the good qualities of a human being. So they're really taking shelter of him here. Verse 23, since Sri Krishna, the absolute truth, the master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us to whom the religious principles have now gone for shelter. So this conversation was spoken. We know when Krishna appeared and when he left the planet. We have a calendar date for that. I don't remember exactly when it is, like 5,100 years ago or something. This is just after Krishna left. And Krishna's departure marked the end of the previous age and the beginning of this age of Kali, which is why they're saying, this is why things are going to get tough. We know that the writing's on the wall. Krishna has left. Now that he has left, see, they know some things. They know that there is such a thing as a source. They know who's a proper teacher, who's understood all the scriptures, who has all the qualities that have pleased their teachers. They're asking for the right person. They know that the real question is how to do the greatest good. They know that the answer has to do with source, but they don't have have all the answers. So they're asking, like, okay, now that Krishna's gone, they know that too. Final question of this chapter: where did religion, real spiritual principles, take shelter? Right? They were taking shelter in him. He's the source of all spiritual principles. Now he's left the planet. Although he's absolute, he's not born or die, right? There's no beginning or end. Even the soul doesn't, any individual soul doesn't have a beginning or end, what to speak of the source, but he's left, just like the sun is set. So where's the light now, right? Question 6, where did spirituality take shelter after Krishna's disappearance?
Isn't that question 5?
5 and 4 were kind of similar. They're both about the avatars.
So verse 20 is also considered a question?
Verse 17 and verse 18.
Oh, okay.
They're just two different kinds of incarnations. They're parsed out in different ways a little bit. One is coming up in the next chapter and the beginning of chapter 3. The next one is further on in chapter 3. Different qualities of incarnations.
I just had a quick question.
A good time for questions. Go ahead.
So this age of Kali is pretty much after Krishna, and we're still in the age of Kali?
We are.
Okay.
How much longer?
We're in the age of Kali for another, let's see. What is the math on that?
I think it's like
me look it up.
something thousand years.
It's like 425,000 years.
432,000 years. Yeah, it's 432,000 years, of which about 5,000 years have passed. So there's another 427,000 years to go.
Do you know how they predicted this or how they landed on that specific number?
Yeah, it's given in the Bhagavatam itself and other scriptures. There's a procession of ages, 4 primary ages, that are each half the length of the previous one. And each one has this is the 4th of 4. And they cycle. Satya, Treta, Dvapara, Kali. Satya, Treta, Dvapara, Kali in Sanskrit. And their characteristics are, if you look at it, there's kind of more detail, but if you look at it through the modes of nature, there's more what's called sattva, goodness, in the earlier ages, and more degradation of that as the further ages go on. So the timeline is given, so 432,000 years, so 800,000 years, 1.6 million and 3.6 million, I guess, years Or am I getting that right? Is it double? Oh, it's the total duration is 4.32 million years
Of what? All
of all of them
these?
combined.
And do you know if this relates to the goddess Kali, this
No,
age, or
no,
it doesn't? It's step. Okay.
different word. Different
Okay.
word. The goddess Kali, and I got your message. I'm going to reply afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. No.
The goddess Kali is kind of overseeing the material energy. She's an expansion of the supreme goddess. When you're chanting Hare Krishna, the Hare in Hare Krishna or Hare Rama, that's the supreme feminine, right? Also known as Radha Rani, Radha. We're calling out to her in the vocative, Hare, oh supreme feminine, oh supreme goddess. The goddess Kali, who's an expansion of Durga, is an expansion of in the material energy, an expansion of the spiritual feminine, for the purposes of administering the world. But that word technically is a different word than the word we're using here. This is, I think, a short A, Kali.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
One more technical question, because I sometimes, you get asked by people like, how do you know this is real? And how do you know this was written? And when was this written? And when does this fall in, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just trying to like get my head straight. So Narda, spiritual person from spiritual planets, gave this knowledge to Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva told this story to his son, Sukadev Goswami. Sukadev Goswami is then narrating what we're reading right now to King Parikshit before he dies. And where we're at right now is where the sages are talking to Sutta Goswami about all of these things. So is that kind of like the right chronology and the right people? It's like Narda to Vyasadeva to Sukadev Goswami to Parikshit, and we're hearing that story being told.
Yes.
Okay.
Really good.
If you haven't heard all those names before, don't worry about it. Eileen is red. She's been cheating. She's
No, I just like sometimes I get like the names do get you, and you're like, okay, I do want to be able to have like the chronology, and I like as I want to like talk to people, or even maybe one day, a million years from now, teach. Like, just want to get that like right chronology down.
Yeah.
Shaman?
Shakti has her hand up.
Oh, Shakti, you go first.
I'm sorry. Is your Tanya? Yeah, okay. Hare Krishna. So I just want to make sure I lost my headphones, so I was like not paying attention for a minute.
Your audio is kind of muddled. I can't hear you. Can you speak closer to the mic, maybe?
You know what it is? It's these weird headphones.
Yeah, I can hear you better.
Now?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to just so I have what the essence of all scriptures. What is the purpose of the supreme truth? Where did religion take shelter? So I forgot number 1. I didn't get down. And is there another one after that 4?
Yeah. Number 1 question: what is the highest good?
Okay, highest good.
Number 2: what is the essence of all scripture?
Right.
Number 3: what's the purpose of Krishna's appearance? Four and 5 have to do with what are his avatars, different kinds of avatars.
Okay, and then I'm gonna just really get in there and say, Eileen, can you just write down what you had said, please, in the chat? Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Tanya, Shakti and I were talking, basically asking the same question, but where I got confused was because I don't have 4 and 5 separate as questions. I have 4 as what are God's avatars and what are they doing? And then I skipped to 6. So what was 5?
The way I'm looking at it, like they're quite. It's basically what are the avatars and what are they doing? Like 2 different questions, like that. Or technically, the way it's going to be explained in the answers, it's going to divide between different kinds of avatars. A little bit technical answer, but you're basically like kind of taking the same kind of question and dividing it into 2. Verse 17 and verse 18 are the 2. They're kind of 2 different questions, technically.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I had another question.
Go for it.
Did Narda tell Vyasadeva, listen, you got all this knowledge and you've written a lot of stuff. but people really don't understand it. You got to put it together, and that's where the Srimad Bhagavatam came from. It's really his instruction. His guru Narada said, Vyasadeva, you got to do a little bit better here. People don't understand. There's too many places.
Yeah, that's actually a conversation they had that's recorded in the 4th and 5th chapters of this canto. That's exactly what happened.
I remember reading it from there. Okay.
Yeah, Vyasadeva, although empowered and he's done his tremendous service, was feeling in his heart like something was incomplete. He wasn't quite satisfied and he didn't know why. And he inquired from his spiritual teacher, Narada, you get it. You must understand what the deficiency is in me. What have I not done? Or what have I not done properly? And Narada said, you've not sufficiently directly glorified the source. You've presented so many indirect things, but by that, people can become, he said practically they can become, in the name of religion, they can become distracted by what's not actually essential. You should help them become refocused on what's really essential by glorifying directly the Supreme Source. Like, here's the thing. People of faith may talk at great length about, like, what do they talk about? They talk about, like, how you should dress or how you should behave or how, like, like, the real system is like this, or like hierarchies or orders, or how knowledge is passed down, or rituals. Like, this is a lot of what people talk about in spiritual communities. Who's actually talking about what God looks like, what he does for fun? Who is he? Right? Who actually has that knowledge? It's very high knowledge. And Narada is saying, you have that and you haven't shared it. You should be more direct with people. So they don't just like, okay, yeah, there's higher power, there's source, but I'll just go to them and like ask for my like material, things to get fulfilled, and that's all they're good for. That's not all they're good for. And you know that, Vyasadeva. He chastised his disciple lovingly because he was asked, like, what do I do? What do I do here? What you should do is you should be more direct. You should help them know that they can have a relationship. This is a person, not a bank account, not a blackjack table. This is like a person. Let him know how beautiful this person is. Let him fall in love with him. And we're going to get to that.
So can I add on to that and just clarify? So I think it was in like Kastuba's class where we were like talking about this, and was it because there was still so many like like after some of the other Vedic texts were like put out there was just still so many impersonalists that just thought there wasn't the person God, and like even after reading like all those different books, people were still just not getting it that like Krishna is a person, like, and then this was written to really be like, yes, people, Krishna is a person, not just, this light or this energy. And like, this is how we have a relationship. Am I making that correct correlation or no?
Yeah, that's always a tendency. Either due to incomplete information, or due to fear of a personal existence, or due to anger or frustration due to apparent hypocrisies in spiritual traditions. So that people throw their hands up, so forget it. There can't be any personal source. Or due to undue and existing and persisting attachment to material enjoyment. It's like our own God project, as Kastuba and Raghu put it, like the tendency to try to make ourselves God leaves very little room for there to be a God. If we're like so attached to the idea that I'm the owner and controller, then it makes the idea of an owner and controller person like kind of repugnant to me. So for a variety of reasons, or just due to lack of knowledge, one may consider that the source is like not necessarily a person in the final issue, doesn't actually have the capacity for relationship. And that we also may not therefore actually have a capacity for personhood, really, in the ultimate issue. That's part of the reason why Narada is instructing Vyasadeva to be more direct. Another one, which we'll get to, but since you're asking, here's from the 5th chapter. He says, the people in general, verse 15, chapter 5, the people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, i.e. enjoy materially, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of material happiness, can understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by you through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. Out of compassion, he's saying, look, not everybody can understand that there is a personal source. They're not so pure in heart. They're still attached to different things. You should help them. You should build a bridge for them. Help them come to that understanding. Don't just give them like the rules and regulations of how to live a moral life and leave it at that. That's good. But if that's all you give them, they're going to think that's all spirituality is for, is to like live a moral, upstanding life, and like they're never going to address their existing material desires. They're never going to be purified of them and learn to actually have an attachment for, an attraction for the Supreme Person. Help them bridge that gap between being in love with Krishna's energy here in the world, whether it's money or sex or power, to falling in love with the Supreme Person. Help them bridge that gap. Because, again, it's this deep compassion that we saw in the sages too. Like, what is the best good for humanity? What is the best good for everybody? It's gonna be a bit of a dark time coming up. What can we do for everybody? What will help them? So that compassion is there in Narada as well, and Vyasadeva too. Thanks for that. We got some stuff in chat. Nancy's saying, I think Shukadeva Goswami told Suta Goswami, and he's answering the sages. Am I correct? I believe so. One second.
Lots of very similar names.
Yeah, they're two different persons.
Yeah, they're different people. So
yeah,
who's the son? Is Sukadev Goswami the son, or and Suta is also a son?
Shukadeva Goswami is the son of Vyasadeva, and he learned from Vyasadeva.
Well, I love the purport says Vyasadeva impregnated the knowledge in Sukadev, which is really beautiful, right? Yeah.
It really, it's potent transmission. It's like a potent person gives you, and then you carry that potent thing yourself as well. In Canto 1, Chapter 3, verse 44, Suta Goswami says that when Shukadev recited the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, this is a conversation that's like a central conversation in the whole Bhagavatam. We're going to hear about this later. But Parikshit was cursed to die in 7 days. He said, okay, I accept my curse. I won't fight against it. I just want to know what the best thing I could do with the rest of my time is. And he took shelter of Shukadev. Shukadev was the son of Vyasadeva, and Shukadev explained to him the essence of all spiritual knowledge, which is to develop devotion, and which is the main message of Bhagavatam. In that assembly where he spoke, several great sages, including Narada, including Vyasa, who's his own father, all these great sages, demigods, came down to hear the conversation. Now, Suta Goswami, he says, I was there in the presence of Shukadev. I learned by his mercy the Bhagavatam. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned from them and as I've realized it. 1.344. So yes, Suta learned from Shukadev, who learned from Vyasadeva, who learned from Narada. Now we're learning from them.
Did we cover? Sorry.
One thing. This is called in Sanskrit as parampara, which literally means one after the other. The succession of teachers and students doesn't end. It continues. Go ahead, Julia.
Did we get to a question 6?
Yes.
Can that be, what was that?
The last question was, where did spirituality or the essence of spiritual or religion take shelter after Krishna disappeared? Where did it go? Verse 23.
All right, then I'm missing one.
That's okay. Don't worry.
Will someone put them in the chat later? Just because I'm missing one.
5 are number 4 and number 5.
Here, I will screenshot this. I'll screenshot this from my study guide. Since you're also eager, I love that about all of you. Here, can I?
You know, this is. I have to tell Lauren, and I don't know you. This is going to be. You're going to love this because now you have an idea of what's going on right from the beginning. It's pretty amazing.
There it is.
Thank you. Thank you,
and now you can check it out.
Thank you.
If you're online, you don't have that. Oh, here's what I'll do. I'll screen share for the people online because we can't exclude them. Share. Share screen. There. I'm now screen sharing, so all of you can pause on the YouTube video and look at this if you really want to get into the questions and when they're answered. There's other questions too that are going to come up. But here's the first 6 questions. Okay. Haribol. Jai. Let me finish reading the last verse of this chapter, and we can start the next chapter, and then we'll take final reflections. Okay? Verse, chapter 1, text 23. Tell us where the principles of spirituality, of religion, have gone. Purport. Essentially, religion is the prescribed codes enunciated by the personality of Godhead himself. Whenever there is gross misuse or neglect of the principles of religion, the Supreme Lord appears himself to restore religious principles. This is stated in Bhagavad Gita. Here the sages are inquiring about these principles. The reply is given later. The Srimad Bhagavatam is a transcendental sound representation of the personality of Godhead, and thus it is the full representation of transcendental knowledge and religious principles. Oh, spoiler, Prabhupada answers it for us. The Bhagavatam itself is the repository of spiritual knowledge. But that's said by the Bhagavatam, so Prabhupada's not speaking anything out of turn. It's correct. I can start the next chapter. You know what, let me read a bit from chapter 2, and then we will take reflections. Okay, chapter 2 is called Divinity and Divine Service. This is a very important chapter. It's a really, really essential chapter. There's the beginning of like some of the best, the beginning of some of the answers to these questions is here. It's a classic chapter. It's a chapter many people who are into the Sanskrit, they will memorize.
Some of the Sanskrit.
Sure, I can read some of the Sanskrit. So, from the chapter, Sutta Goswami, being fully satisfied by the perfect questions of the Brahmins, thanked them and attempted to reply. So first he offers his respects to his teachers, to his teacher, Shukadev Goswami. And then he says, let me offer my respectful obeisance unto him, Shukadev, the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyasadeva, who out of his great compassion for those great gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge, after having personally assimilated it by experience. He says, before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Person, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Verse 5, he says, the Sanskrit, Muniya sadhu prishtoham bhavat pirloka mangalam yadkuta Krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidati. O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. So in the purport, Prabhupada talks about questions and answers. He says here, the whole world is full of questions and answers. The birds, beasts, and men, humans, are all busy in the matter of perpetual questions and answers. In the morning, the birds in the nest become busy with questions and answers. In the evening also, the same birds come back and again become busy with questions and answers. The human being, unless they are fast asleep at night, is busy with questions and answers. The businessmen in the market, the lawyers in the court, students in the schools, legislators in the parliament are also busy with questions and answers. Politicians, although they go on making such questions and answers for their whole lives, they are not at all satisfied. Satisfaction of the soul can only be obtained by questions and answers on the subject of Krishna, our source. Krishna is our most intimate master, friend, father or son, and object of conjugal love. These are references to what's called rasas, different ways in which we can actually relate to the Supreme Person and love him. Forgetting Krishna, we have created so many objects of questions and answers, but none of them are able to give us complete satisfaction. All things but Krishna give temporary satisfaction only. So if we are to have complete satisfaction, we must take to the questions and answers about Krishna. We cannot live for a moment without being questioned or without giving answers. Because the Srimad Bhagavatam deals with questions and answers that are related to Krishna, we can derive the highest satisfaction only by reading and hearing this transcendental literature. One should learn the Srimad Bhagavatam and make an all-around solution to all problems pertaining to social, political, or religious matters. Verse 6 is the first answer to a question that we've been asked. Verse 6 and verse 7, the question was, what is the highest good? Verse 6 answers it. Savai pungsam paro dharmo yato bhaktira tokshaje ahaitukya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. This is chapter 2, verse 6. The supreme occupation, or dharma, the supreme dharma for all humanity is that by which people can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So the question is, what is the highest good? And the answer here is to develop. Unmotivated means like love for the Supreme that doesn't actually have any other purpose. Like I'm not like serving to get something back. I'm not serving for some other motive. And uninterrupted means there's no break. To come to a point where one has unmotivated, no other purpose, uninterrupted pure love for the source, that is the only thing that can fully satisfy the self. This is like a thesis statement for the whole Bhagavatam, right? This is why the Bhagavatam exists, to help people to come to this point where they can be fully satisfied. And the only thing is the thesis statement, that they can fully satisfy the self is to be fully and completely in love with the Supreme. To know them and be completely related to them in love, with no other purpose, not to get anything back, any material gain, and with no interruption, no starting and stopping. That immersion of pure devotional relationship is the only thing that can actually give the highest joy. And therefore, it's the answer to the question of what is the highest good. That's what the Bhagavatam is saying. That's what Sutta Goswami is saying in response to them. And you substantiate it many times. But this is the beginning of the answer. From the purport. This is a really, really powerful purport. In fact, this chapter is like, if you can read only the purports to one chapter in this canto, make it this chapter. Chapter 2. Especially verses 6 through like 21 or something. That really good chunk of the middle of the chapter, 6 through 20, 21. These are like the essential verses and purports. Really classic stuff here from the Bhagavatam and from Prabhupada. So from this purport, Prabhupada says, the Vedas prescribe two different types of occupation for the human being. One is called the Pravritti Marga, or the path of sense enjoyment, and the other is called the Nivritti Marga, or path of renunciation. The path of enjoyment of material things is inferior, and the path of sacrifice for the supreme cause is superior. Actual life is spiritual existence, where life is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. Material existence is temporary, illusory, and full of miseries. There is no happiness at all. There is just a futile attempt to get rid of the miseries. And temporary cessation of misery is falsely called happiness. Right? It's the idea of like fighting over a better prison cell in the prison. It's like, I want to have more wealth. I want to have more access to resources. It's like, what is that going to do for the soul? The soul doesn't have any contact with matter. We don't belong to this world. We cannot hold on to these things eternally anyway. They cannot give satisfaction. So this is just temporary cessation of misery. Like, we're not saying you shouldn't be comfortable. We're saying that comfort can never touch the soul anyway, and it can only go so far. Therefore, Prabhupada goes on, the path of progressive material enjoyment, which is temporary, miserable, and illusory, is actually an inferior path. But devotional service to the Supreme Lord, which leads one to eternal, blissful, and all cognizant life, is called the superior quality of engagement. We have purposely denoted dharma, the word dharma, as occupation, because the root meaning of the word dharma is, quote, that which sustains one's existence. That which sustains one's existence. Dharma means, like, another translation is its nature. The essential nature of something is its dharma. A living being's sustenance of existence, in other words, their essential nature, is to coordinate their activities with their eternal relation with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna is the central pivot of living beings, and he is the all-attractive living entity, or eternal form, amongst all other living beings or eternal forms. Each and every living being has their eternal form in the spiritual existence, and Krishna is the eternal attraction for all of them. The word Krishna actually also just means, one of its meanings is the all-attractive source, right? Like in an atom, the electrons are helplessly attracted to the protons, are just orbiting around it. That's just the way it's set up. The sun is there, the planets are there. There's like always like, everything in reality is relational. There's always something orbiting something else. There's always like, night follows day, day follows night. We are little tiny parts and parcels of the Supreme, and we're orbiting that Supreme. We're attracted to that all-attractive source. He's the source of all attractive energy. Right? Prabhupada goes on. Krishna is the complete whole, and everything else is his part and parcel. The relation is one of the servant and the served. It is transcendental and is completely distinct from our experience in material existence. This relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. One can realize it as devotional service progresses. Everyone should engage themselves in that transcendental loving service of the Lord. Even in the present conditional state of material existence, that will gradually give one the clue to actual life and please them to complete satisfaction. The last verse I'll read is verse 7, because it also kind of answers what is the highest good, because the answer is pure devotion. And this verse 7 says, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. It describes more about what devotion is. It says, by rendering devotional service unto the personality of God, at Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment. So the relationship is there that by devotion, by service in devotion, knowledge and detachment come. They're actually byproducts of bhakti. They're not prerequisites. It's not that, oh, I don't know enough, so I can't practice bhakti, or oh, I'm too attached to my bad habits, I can't practice bhakti. No, that's why you should practice bhakti. The byproduct of bhakti is you will have knowledge, you'll know what to do, and you'll have detachment, which means that you can do what's good for you. After knowing it, you have the strength to do it. This knowledge and detachment, they're byproducts of bhakti. They're also energies of Krishna, Jnana Shakti and Vairagya. They're both byproducts, concomitant factors. And this purport, also very important. I recommend reading it. Talking about how, what I just said, that knowledge and detachment, how they come from the practice of bhakti, and they nourish and enliven and support the growth of the advancing devotee. So these verses 6 and 7 basically answer what is the highest good. The answer is to develop love of God, by which a byproduct is perfect transcendental knowledge and detachment from things that are not serving you, detachment from matter. So this answer is in verses 6 and 7 of this chapter 2. So I'm going to pause for reflections, comments, questions. I'll just say now, please read as much of the second chapter as you can this week. And I really think the purports are especially valuable here. Verses 6 through let me confirm here. Verses 6 to about 21 are a very, very important part of the Bhagavatam. In fact, we did a little bit of a deep dive on this section of the Bhagavatam. On Friday mornings, we have a little Bhagavatam class that we lead after chanting Hare Krishna, having a little kirtan. Some of you are in that. All of you are welcome. And I've been choosing different sections to read from. One was the chapter on where Narada was instructing Vyasadeva, chapter 5. Where we are now is chapter 8 of the first canto, Prayers by Queen Kunti. Another one was this chapter because it's really fundamental philosophy. So verses 6 through 21, if you can read those. I mean, just reading the verses will take you like 2 minutes. Read as much of the purports as you can too. They're really powerful. So that's kind of like my ask. Now we'll take any reflections or questions, anything that stood out that you thought was cool or interesting, or that you'll take home with you. Questions, comments, reflections.
One of the things, sorry, I also have the crud. Um, text 19 and chapter 1, we never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. And I don't know if you can speak more on this, but it's sort of brought to mind a question I never really knew that I had, which is, you know, we hear songs on the radio and we get really sick of them, right? Because we hear them over and over. But like the one song we never tire of is the Maha Mantra. And I'm just fascinated by that, right? And I sort of feel like this is speaking to that a little bit. And, I'm not necessarily trying to answer why that is, but it just kind of gets to the essence of why we chant.
Thank you for that. Verse 19. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment. Yeah, it's it makes no material sense. And it kind of relates to something that Julia put in the chat because she had to head out. She said, I have to jump off. Thanks to her good class. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Reflection, I'm appreciating how quickly into the text the importance and mercy of chanting is already offered to us. Because in the same chapter also, it's talking about those who are entangled in the, how does it put it? Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy names of the Lord, Krishna. So these sages they're onto that knowledge. They get it. And it's a great reminder because it is mysteriously attractive. Any bona fide name of the Lord is actually just a mysteriously attractive potency because, well, we know the philosophy is that because anything on the absolute level gives us access to the complete whole. So his names are not different from himself. But that's the essential reason why we have such a central focus on chanting. It doesn't cost anything to chant. It doesn't require paraphernalia. It's really simple. It's really catchy too. You can put a little music to it and get stuck in your head, and next thing you know, you're walking down the street going, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Like she was singing that earlier. Kishori was. I heard that melody for the first time in 2012. I was like, damn, that's a banger. I like that. And it never gets old. I mean, it's not even the melody. It's the Maha Mantra. So thanks for that reflection. And yeah, I've read this section of the Bhagavatam like many, many times. It's just still proving itself right. It's never boring. Yeah. We have a couple minutes. Any more reflections, questions, comments?
I just thought it was really cool to kind of come full circle where we started this class, like going back to Lauren's beautiful reflection, like it is all about love and it's about the relationship and, the devotion to Krishna. Like I get stuck personally, and I've talked about this, like I get it stuck in my head and I love learning. I'm like a word nerd and like I love knowing all the things. But unless that's parlayed into feeling, it doesn't bring you necessarily closer to Krishna. Like you're kind of doing it because you want to feel smart, and I get caught in that. So I love these like reminders of that. And I think the second thing I absolutely love and going through this is like the repetition. Like I'm seeing all the Gita in what we just read, right? Like all the themes of the Gita, we're hearing them here in a different way, in a different context with different speakers. And then Prabhupada's purports are just so beautiful that they like say it again. And we all need, like, I need, at least I'll speak for myself, I need like the cosmic 2x4 to be like, yeah, Eileen, you've heard this now probably a couple hundred times, but like you're going to need to hear it probably another 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times, and you're still not going to get it, but like I'm going to keep doing this for you. So like I really appreciate, having that, like, grounding in the Bhagavad Gita, and then like as you go here, you're like, oh, this is all there too. It's just expanding it and it's giving me it again, so maybe it'll stick. So I appreciate that so much.
Yeah. The principles of Bhagavad Gita, they're like threaded throughout here. Yeah. Like Prabhupada was quoting earlier, how the sages were saying, like, we tell us like the reasons for Krishna's appearance. And Prabhupada in his purport were saying that Krishna appears himself personally to rejuvenate spiritual practice when it's full of hypocrisy and so forth. And he says that in Bhagavad Gita. And I was like, yep, chapter 4, Yada Yada Hidharmasya Glani Bhavati Bharata, 4, 6 through 9 in chapter Bhagavad Gita. You can read about that. So like Krishna's saying, he's saying to Arjuna in chapter 4, verses 6 through 9 of the Bhagavad Gita about how he appears and why he appears. And like that's expanded. Like that's actually one of the questions the sages are asking here. It's like, why did he appear? What are the reasons for his incarnations? Who are these incarnations? What were their activities? And like each one of them gets like chapters and chapters. It's like an expansion. Take like little bits of that Bhagavad Gita. Like, how about we put a whole chapter for that one verse? A whole chapter of Bhagavatam to like, it's like a little zip file. You double click on it, like, there you go. So it's very connected. It's not like a disconnected science at all. It's like super integrated. Special shout out to my crew of Lauren and Jack who are reading the Bhagavad Gita while they're reading Bhagavatam. Love that.
Amazing.
And Kristen too, I think. Yeah. Last call for reflections.
Oh.
Less than a minute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, keep it quick. Your last one.
Just exactly like I literally jumping on Eileen like that, like taking Bhakti Shastri, reading the books, then coming here and not just reading, but learning them with you is so special and so amazing that it does, like you said, Eileen, it does make like all of a sudden you're kind of like, oh, okay, I'm like you can start to understand what's really happening. And I can't thank you enough. And I'm just really grateful. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Study the books helps, but any devotional practice helps. Like just chanting daily is one of the best things I ever found for developing devotional intelligence. We heard the verse say that intelligence follows devotion. So if you practice devotion by chanting every day, Krishna will give you the intelligence how to understand his philosophy. Something that even an academic can understand. You'll have the power to approach it more and more and go more and more deeply into it and experience it personally. So just affirmation of all of our devotional practices, hearing, chanting, kirtan, getting together. So Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, who translated these verses and gave to us with priceless commentary. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, and all glories to all of you. Thanks for your contributions. See you on WhatsApp. Please give me reflections of what you heard. And happy reading chapter 2 and happy holidays. Try to keep the transcendental sound vibration going. We'll see you soon. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna, thank you.